Welcome everyone. Let's go through the latest news from DirectOut. In particular, we will look at the very big new introduction of the operational mode for the Prodigy series. In the Prodigy MC and in the Prodigy MP, starting from build 25 for the Prodigy MC and build 11 for the Prodigy MP, the show mode and the configuration mode has been introduced. Let's see what it's all about. When you start programming your Prodigy MP, for example, you can start in show mode or in configuration mode. What's the difference? Well, once you are in show mode, not all the parameters can be changed because this is the operational mode you want to stay when you want to be protected, and you don't want to, by mistake, changing something which can impact on your DSP structure, for example, or might interrupt the audio and stuff like that. While you are configuring your device and you are not during the show, you might want to stay in configuration mode in order to have the freedom to change whatever is needed for your show. Anyway, it's very clear, when you start up the device, it goes automatically in show mode, because the big news is that the snapshots are now inside of the devices and not any longer just a globcon matter. So you will be able to recall existing snapshots in show mode from the front panel of the device. We will have a look at that. So, for example, you started from a project which is already, there, and you have no snapshot for the time being. Well, at that point, if you have to change something, such as, for example, I realize that on this particular channel, if I just have to have a different source, this is something that you can do straight away from the configuration mode, or even in show mode, because a patch change is something that you definitely want to be able to do during the show, right? So for example, let's say now I want to have a mother input number 1 from here, for example, right? This is something that you can do in show mode. This is not something which is prevented to be done in show mode. But when you want to put a plugin, for example, in the Prodigy MP, which is impacting the structure of the SP, well, you immediately realize that the insert, the bypass, and remove, all the operations of the plugin are grayed out because they are, as you can see in the hint, if you wait a little bit, not allowed in show mode. You have to enter the configuration mode to enable those changes. The first time you enter the configuration mode, you have a warning says configuration mode allows for configuration settings change, which will also impact on existing snapshots. You can conform any non-compliant snapshots in the new configuration settings at any time. If you don't want to get this warning every time you go back and forth the configuration mode or show mode, you can tick this option and say don't warn me again, and you can then definitely enter the configuration mode. When you are in configuration mode, it's very clear because the config mode is having a red background, and on the global view you have a blinking warning. You are reminded that you are in configuration mode. Of course, the device is fully working. You can do the entire show in configuration mode if you want, but we recommend that once you have changed whatever should be changed during the configuration mode, during the rehearsal, during the preparation of the show or something, once you're finished, you better get into the show mode, which is granting you a much more stable and not changeable by mistake configuration of your device. While in configuration mode, you have no limits. You can also reset the complete device if you want, which is, as you will see, don't warn me again when going back to the show mode. Once in show mode, of course, you cannot reset the device. This is one of the typical examples that, by mistake, you don't want to reset your device while in show mode. So let's get back to the configuration mode and go back to our DSP, and then you will see that you will be able to put the FIR EQ or the dynamic or whatever plugin you want. Which are the other operations that you are not allowed to do while in show mode? For example, the DSP settings of a matrix, so for example the usage of the several buses, are impacting the structure of the device. So they are available in configuration mode, they are not available in show mode. This is another example. Or which are other configuration settings which can only be changed while in configuration mode? For example, the group membership of one or more channel. If I want to group those channels, and let's say I want them to be member of the same group, I cannot do that while in show mode because group membership is another configuration settings. So there's a relationship between the configuration settings and the snapshots. Snapshots are changing all the parameters, but not the configuration settings, which stay stable within the last configuration setting you decided to go or to work on. Therefore, when you are entering the show mode, leaving the show mode and entering the configuration mode and change some of the settings, all the previously stored or created snapshot might be not conform any longer because they are relying on different configuration settings. Is that a big thing? Is it a big problem? Of course it's not. But you have to conform the existing snapshots previously recorded before the changing of the settings in order to make them compatible, compliant, conform to the current configuration settings. And we will actually look at that quickly. So if I try to to group assign those channels while in show mode, you see this is another thing which is prevented in show mode. Let's say I want to go to the show mode, configuration mode, then I'll absolutely have the possibility to create a group of those channels from 4 levels, for example, and I can edit the name of the group and we say this is my group regular. So now if I go to the group settings and I extract that floating fader and put it there and I go back to the DSP, I can see that those channels will be part of the same group. I forgot to get rid of that channel too, so what was part of my multi-selection when I selected that. So now those 5 channels are part of the same group. If I did a mistake and I didn't want to go for the flex channel be part of the same group, I just have to go to the group, get into the group, say group member, right? And then I can get rid of the channel number 8 if I want, just doing that. Now from that point on, that channel is not any longer part of the same group, and you can see the ghost fader of the real level part of that group. Okay, that's easy. Let's say we are happy with that, and we take a snapshot about that, or we go back to the show mode, and then of course in show mode we want to grab a snapshot of the entire configuration. So we go to the snapshot and we take a new snapshot. This is the snapshot number 1, and then you can always record the snapshot number 1 with the empty scope set, not that very useful, or a full scope set with I'll click on all, and then you totally recall all the parameters with all the settings from the snapshot, or you can start changing your scope set according to your desire, tweaking the situation of scope areas, scope details, or going in very little details, for example, about the internal routing. Don't change the routing of that specific flex channel or the other flex channel or something like that. But snapshot is not the main topic here. I just want to underline which are the biggest news with the introduction of the show mode and the configuration mode. So for to make it easy, let's go back to a full scope set of this snapshot. Let's say we create a bunch of different snapshots. For example, we go back to our flex channel and then we decrease the channel here. We change the EQ of this channel and we add a filter there. And then we want to grab a different snapshot and we want to tweak some parameters of the compressor here. And then we compress this with a little bit of an attack and then, relaxing the release time. So you see that the configuration might have been changed. So the channel number 2 is muted, this one is muted, this one is muted. Let's say we want to take a snapshot of this new situation, so we take a different snapshot. Now we can see that we can go back and forth, the snapshot number 1, the snapshot number 2, wherever we want, while staying in show mode. We can go back to the first snapshot, see that everything is back as we were, or we can go back to the second snapshot, recall the second snapshot and see that the situation has changed according to the snapshot. We can also learn another thing, so we can quickly assign a trigger. So let's say snapshot 1, so the combination of the keystroke S+1 will record the first snapshot, and the snapshot number 2 learn, and S2 will recall the second snapshot. So we can appreciate the snapshot recall while having the tab of the DSP in front of us. So the S1 and S2 are now available from there. The big news is that now the snapshots are stored inside the memory of the device and not any longer a globcon thing. So you will be surprised, or maybe not, because I told you already that snapshot 1 and 2 are available for recalling them from the front panel straight away. How can I do that? I just simulate the front panel operation opening the browser. I can get to the main menu, I go to the snapshot, and you see the snapshot number 1 and snapshot number 2 are available, and if I want to change the snapshot 1 or 2, I simply select the snapshot, click on the dialer and confirm with load, and then the snapshot is loaded. Well, we can also see and appreciate that globcon is receiving the same information from the device. So if I keep the snapshot open from the front panel, you will appreciate the fact that if I'm recalling the snapshot number 1 from the front panel, of course snapshot number 1 will be recalled. So there's no difference at all recalling a snapshot now from globcon 1 or 2, or recalling the snapshot from the front panel of the device. This is extremely cool, especially because if I don't have the globcon project with all my snapshots, but the snapshots are already inside of the device of the memory of the device, when I pull the information from the device, I pull also the information about all the snapshots existing inside of the device. So there's a new entry in the menu. The menu is reachable touching on the little icon, and then you can scroll the snapshots and stuff like that, and then you can recall double click with the browser or push the dialer on the front panel of the device. Good. So what we want to do now is to show that it might happen that you have to change something when you already have snapshots, and you might need to enter the configuration mode again, just because during the job you realize that you need another plugin in this position, for example. So if I want to grab another Dante channel from here, the channel number 1, and then I want to, okay, now I need a little bit of dynamic or EQ to avoid that for example, I'm exceeding the the room that I have in my processing. In my processing internally, I have plenty of room because we can handle up to plus 48 dBFS. But before you get out of the device, of course, you have to make sure that your dynamic is not exceeding 0 dBFS. That's why I would like to put on this output flex channel, or let's better say flex channel with an output style. I would like to put a dynamic EQ here, for example, or sorry, a dynamic control plugin. So if I'm in show mode, well, now I have the problem because I already have a bunch of snapshots, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, which is the number of the snapshot. But now I have to change the structure of my device. No worries. Get to the configuration mode. Do your job. Do whatever you have to do. Put the dynamic. And once you are back to the configuration mode, you are offered to conform the existing snapshots. And you can see that immediately, because you changed something while in configuration mode, those two snapshots became non-compliant because they were created before the settings change. And if you get now to the front panel, you see that there's an empty list of the snapshot, not because the snapshots are not there, but because the snapshots which are there are not compliant with the current configuration settings, and therefore are filtered out from the front panel to avoid that you can run the risk to recall a non-compliant snapshot. So what can I do here? Well, first of all, I would like to keep a copy of that snapshot. For example, I can duplicate that snapshot 1 and 2, right? Just because I want to have the possibility to go back in time and get there exactly in the same shape. So I'm not going to conform those snapshots. So in case you want to keep an original version of the snapshot that you created before the changes, you always have the possibility to duplicate that. And now snapshot 1 and snapshot 1 copy are identical, and when you get back to the configuration, from the configuration mode to the show mode, you are offered the the possibility to conform existing snapshots to the current plan. So you might want to confirm snapshot 1 and 2 and leave the original version of the two, so you don't select the first two snapshots and you conform the selection of the snapshot. Once back in show mode, you can see that snapshot number 1 and snapshot number 2 are perfectly there, and snapshot number 1 copy and 2 copy are not recallable while in show mode because they are based on different configuration settings. So you never run the risk to get to an inconsistent situation inside of your device. So if we go back to our system and recall snapshot number 1, we get exactly what we needed. And if you go back to the snapshot number 2, you get exactly what you had before. But you might have noticed that since those two snapshots have been created before you put the dynamic is automatically bypassed in all the previously created snapshots to avoid to change the audio, the real audio path and behavior of snapshots existing before the introduction of the dynamic. So now, that doesn't mean that you cannot use that dynamic if you realize that even if those snapshots have been created before, you might need to have this dynamic in. Well, you know that in the snapshot you have all the tools you need to edit existing snapshots, do it online, go back to the DSP and say, well, I don't want to have this plugin bypassed, and therefore you right click on the and you remove the bypass, you go back to the snapshot, you check out, you are informed about what you have changed since the edit dataset session started, and you might want to apply that change not just to the snapshot number 1, but also to the snapshot number 2. So before pressing the apply button, so what I did now, I simply conformed the previously existing snapshots, and I want them to have the plugin not bypassed but inserted in the channel. So now if I recall snapshot number 2, I have this one and the snapshot number 1, different things, but in both snapshots the plugin is not at all bypassed and having the settings that I left when I stored the snapshot. When I introduced the plugin, and therefore the snapshot have been now conformed. If I go back to the front panel now, I can see that my two snapshots are back again, and I can recall the snapshot from the front panel with no problem at all. So, recap, from the front panel, you only have the possibility to recall compliant snapshots. The non-compliant are filtered out and not even shown. In globcon, you still have the possibility to appreciate which are the conformed snapshots, and you might have a good reason why you want to keep a copy of non-conformed, because if you really want to go back exactly in the same shape you were when you took that snapshot, you could. How? You enter the configuration mode. While in configuration mode, snapshots are recalled with full scope set only. That's the reason why you cannot alter the scope set when you are in configuration mode. And configuration settings are also recalled from the snapshot to guarantee a total device recall. So if now I'm recalling a non-compliant snapshot, I know that I can do that while in configuration mode, but I will also know that I will re-establish exactly the same settings there were when I created those snapshots. So if I'm recalling snapshot 1 copy now, I'm expecting to see disappearing this dynamic plugin because that was not there when I created those snapshots. Let's see if that is true. If I can go back here, I can recall that, and I know that I can recall that. If I go to my DSP settings, you know already what happened? Those two snapshots creating under different conditions became non-compliant, while the two original ones became compliant again, and my dynamic is not there any longer. So you might have good reasons why you want to keep some non-compliant snapshot in the list to have the possibility to be exactly in the same shape, both on the snapshot data and the configuration setting, recalling a complete snapshot, a total device recall while in configuration mode. If I want to go back here to the situation, I simply recall that. The system is recalling exactly the same settings, including the plugins insert and stuff like that, and calculate the conformity or not conformity of compliancy or not compliancy of existing snapshots. I still have the possibility to get back to my show mode, and you see that another thing. Due to the last changing, You didn't have any snapshot which became uncompliant. You already had snapshot not compliant. Do you want to make them compliant? This is really cool because on the go, when I go back and forth, let's say I'm in show mode, now I need another plugin here. Okay, I have my normal, let's say I take another snapshot just to make an example. So I have snapshot 5, snapshot 6, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the compliant ones, if I want, I can also put, back in the list. Let's say those are my operational snapshots that I'm using during the show, which can also be recalled from the front panel. You see that the number of the snapshots increased in the front panel as well, right? And I want to keep those just for security in case I have to go back there, or in case I want to be very quick and change completely my configuration, including plugins, inserts, including bus usage, group assignment, and all the things that should be done in configuration mode. It's like a short way to recall a complete project and making a complete push to the device. Let's put it in that way. So when I'm now changing something, because I can get to the configuration mode and add another plugin, for example, an IIRIQ here followed by a delay, for example, let's say, when I go back to the configuration mode, I don't want to conform the original one, which I want to keep, but I want to be very quick to recall and conform all the usual one, the operational one. So you have a button, and in a matter of one click, you can conform the current selection, and then you can still keep updated the operational snapshot that you have in your project. Okay, so now you have the possibility to do whatever you want, including exporting snapshots. So if you are exporting the snapshot and you give it a name, Lucas style MP, let's say Lucas style MP. Let's give it a stupid snapshot, right? A name, sorry. Then when I'm having a complete different device, and I might be interested in importing something which is made on completely different configuration settings, and to do that we simply change the structure again to make sure that the snapshot that I just exported cannot be compliant because I have a different configuration, right? So if I go back and I conform the existing snapshot here, I'm ready to go. But now if I want to import the snapshot from a different project, such as those ones, they are imported but they are immediately checked for conformity, and then you see that those copies are not at all. So there's a snapshot 1, a snapshot 2, a snapshot 5, because I didn't change the name, which have been imported, but of course they cannot be compliant. But I know that if I have to go back exactly in the same configuration of the snapshot which I imported on purpose, I can go to the configuration mode, I can go to the snapshot number 1, recall that snapshot which has been imported, and then I can change my entire settings, and you see that another bunch of snapshots became compliant. And no wonder if the plugins which I exported before are exactly in the same shape, while the new ones that I introduced before importing the snapshot disappeared, but they are not lost forever. If I want to change my mind, I can go back to the snapshot, recalling the second version of the snapshot with the full scope set and with the intrinsic configuration settings. I can get back there, and guess what? I have my device with all the other plugins available. Once I have the possibility to conform all those snapshots or leave out some of them and say, okay, I want to have those only conformed. So now you can have your two different lists of conformed, compliant snapshot, non-compliant snapshots. You can always save a globcon project which is having the complete situation of the configuration, and you will be able to completely wipe a new device and put only an old snapshot you want to have. But the biggest advantage now, having the snapshot inside of the device, is that even if now I close globcon completely, right? And okay, I save and quit. Let's say I don't have this project at all. I can open globcon, I can give my device to someone else, they can download globcon for free from globcon.pro, install globcon, get to the discovery method, get to Ethernet, get the device that you want to control, which is this one, And even if I don't have the project, you see when pulling the device, creating controller is importing all the snapshots which are inside of the device. So when I'm opening the device and I go to the snapshot, I have exactly all the snapshot, even if I don't have the globcon project with me. This has been a big news, so to be very quick, I just simply recall, I don't want to save this one, I want to recall the other project which I saved, which is comprising two different Prodigy series, MP and MC, and two different virtual devices with integrated and browser to simulate the front panel or to control the device from a normal browser. And inside of the device, I have my snapshots, which are listed only the conformed one to prevent disasters in recalling non-compliant snapshot in your system. So the conforming procedure is done with globcon only, but all the informations are permanently stored inside of the memory of the device, which is the biggest news here. So what is impacting the Prodigy MP is a much bigger list of things, and I invite you to download the information that DirectOut is providing. So those two additional supplemental things. One for the Prodigy MC, so where you have all the information regarding the show mode, the configuration mode, and blah, blah, blah. And the other one, a separate one for the Prodigy MP, depending on which is the device that you are interested in. So the list of things which cannot be done while in show mode or can only be done in configuration mode is much longer for the Prodigy MP. So flex channel style input and output, mat mix bus configuration, plugin insert, routing position, not the plugin parameters, of course, which can be recalled via the snapshot. Hardware insert, routing and position, channel link, mute fader and plugins, and group membership. While for the Prodigy MP, the real only parameter which is impacted by the usage of the configuration mode and the show mode is the group membership. You might know that recently we have introduced the group logic or the group functionalities also for the Prodigy MC. Although there's no DSP inside of the Prodigy MP, or let's say what is the classical description of DSP, such as EQ, limiting, and blah, 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 is not something which you can find on the Prodigy MC. Nevertheless, it's very convenient to have the possibility to create a group to control globally, like a VCA or DCA, a bunch of output channels. You might want to use a group for that, which is available. So let's say I have those bunch of analog output and I want to create one big controller fader to have, although I have to respect the relative outputs of every single output, I want to have a global control of that. So I can multi-select those channels, right? And when I try to right-click, I see that the group assign function is not available, and the reason is because you need to be in configuration mode to do that. So let's get into the configuration mode. Don't warn me next time. Now I'm in configuration mode. I can assign the groups of those channels, and I can click on level to select all of the selected channel. I can right click on the name of the group and say my MC outs, right? Then you have grouped those channels. You can clear the multi-selection. You can go to the group, extract your fader if you want, a floating fader. So now you have just one fader to control the relative levels of the entire group. Group membership is the only thing that you have to do in configuration mode if you are working with the Prodigy MC. Anything else can be done in show mode. As I showed you before, when you get back to the show mode, leaving the configuration mode, since I had already a snapshot inside of the Prodigy MC, I'm offered the possibility to to conform that. And then it's a nice thing which I forgot to mention before. If you select one snapshot, it gives you the details of non-compliant parameters, which I told you in the MC can only be the group memberships. So those channels, they do have a different group membership, and therefore you can conform that snapshot. And when you get back to the show mode, the snapshot can be recalled from globcon, of course, as usual, or from the front panel of the MC as well. You get to the snapshot, and you have the snapshot, and then you can recall the snapshot from the front panel too. If we go back quickly to close the chapter, go back to the Prodigy MP, and we create a snapshot, or we already have a non-compliant snapshot. When you get to the configuration mode, and then you get there, when you are offered the conform stuff, if you select one snapshot, it gives you exactly which are the parameters which are not compliant compared to the current configuration settings. So those three snapshots, they do have a different plugin positions. So you can have a preview of what is not compliant, and then you can take your decision if you really want to comply or to conform that snapshot or not. If you want to conform all the non-compliant snapshot of this selection, you can click on this button. If you just want to select one by one, let's say I just want to have the second one and this snapshot number 10. Maybe you don't want the snapshot number 10, you're only the 11, okay. Then the 11 can be conformed, so you conform the selection. Once you are back to the show mode, right? When you are back to the show mode, you can also conform non-compliant snapshot straight. You don't need to go to the configuration mode to conform a snapshot. So if you realize that you need that snapshot to be conformed, you can select that snapshot, press on the conform button. The same option panel is offered you, because then you have the possibility to inspect, and then if you can conform the selection. So conforming the snapshot is something that you can do both in configuration mode and show mode. It's not a dangerous operation, of course. I hope this could have helped you. Please take a look of the documentation available from directout.eu and have fun with your Prodigy series.